I grip my clutch purse so tightly my knuckles blanch white against the black leather. The Welling estate looms before me, a Victorian monstrosity of wealth and tradition, strung with fairy lights that illuminate the procession of happy families climbing the wide stone steps. I stand alone at the bottom, frozen in place. My chocolate-colored dress hugs my frame in sleek lines, a deliberate contrast to the sea of pastel chiffon and floral patterns floating up those stairs. The late afternoon sun catches on diamond earrings and polished cufflinks as guests turn to stare. "Is that the one who's still single?" The whisper drifts down from a cluster of blue-haired women. "Brielle's sister?" I straighten my spine and force my feet to move. One step. Another. The stone feels solid beneath my heels, unlike the churning sensation in my stomach. "Quite accomplished in her field," murmurs a man in a tailored suit as I pass. "Too busy with her job to settle down, I hear." His companion nods. "Such a shame. Not getting any younger." I maintain the precise angle of my chinot, too high to seem arrogant, not too low to appear ashamed. Every eye tracks my progress, measuring, calculating, judging. Brielle's new in-laws stand in a tight circle near the entrance, their scrutiny the most intense of all. The memory rises unbidden. 11 years old, hunched over circuit boards while Brielle practiced cheerleading routines in the yard. Mom's voice calling through the house. "Aunt Selma, Catherine Rourke, come downstairs this instant," after discovering I'd dismantled the family computer. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Dad would ask, shaking his head when I showed him the programming language I'd taught myself at 13. "Girls don't build computers," Mom had insisted. "They build families." The summer I was 15, she grounded me for attending robotics camp instead of the school dance where Brielle was crowned queen. That night, I'd stared at the ceiling and promised myself that someday, they'd understand my worth. That day hasn't arrived. I reach the crowded foyer where my mother holds court, resplendent in lavender silk. Her eyes sweep over me as I approach, her smile tightening at the corners. "Aunt Selma, darling." She leans in for an air kiss that never quite touches my cheek. Her perfumey same lily of the valley she's worn since I was born engulfs me in memories. "You could have worn something brighter, dear. This is a celebration, not a funeral." Before I can respond, Brielle floats into view, a vision in white, her third wedding gown, each more elaborate than the last. Our eyes meet briefly. "Glad you made it," she says, voice cool as mountain water. She turns to greet a couple behind me, enveloping them in exclamations of delight. "The Harringtons! I'm so thrilled you could come." I'm dismissed. Just like that. A server passes with champagne, and I take a glass, careful not to gulp it despite my parched throat. "Quite the extravagant affair," comments a woman with an elaborate updo. "Your sister certainly knows how to put on a show." "She certainly does," I reply, refusing to offer the expected compliment. I navigate through clusters of conversation, feeling the subtle shift as people notice me, then dismiss me. The weight of solitude grows heavier with each step. Finally, I find refuge at a corner table, trading my emptied champagne for club soda. Should I leave now? Make an excuse about an early meeting tomorrow? The thought is tempting, but the headlines would write themselves in family lore. "And Selma too selfish to stay for her sister's special day." "A woman like that," drifts a voice from the next table. "Career. First types. Probably expects applause just for showing up." I sip my club soda, bubbles sharp against my tongue. The condensation on the glass mirrors the cold sweat forming between my shoulder blades. 3 more hours. I can survive 3 more hours of this. But surviving isn't living, is it? And I've spent a lifetime doing just that in the shadow of the golden child. I stare at the little calligraphy card in my hand, turning it over as if there might be some mistake. Table 14. The farthest corner from the head table, tucked behind a structural column. I lift my eyes to watch Brielle personally escorting the Hendersons, people I've never even heard her mention, to their seats at table 3, her arm linked through Mrs. Henderson's as they laugh like old friends. "Miss Rourke?" A young woman in a black pantsuit appears beside me, clipboard in hand. "I can show you to your table." My sister didn't assign me herself? The question slips out before I can catch it. The wedding planner's smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Miss Brielle has a system. This way, please." I follow her past tables of laughing guests, past childhood neighbors and college roommates, past business associates and tennis partners. We stop at a table populated with distant cousins from Wyoming and an elderly great-aunt who keeps mistaking me for someone named Patricia. "Here you are," the planner says brightly. I scan the table, noting the way conversation dips upon my arrival. "Thank you," I murmur, settling into the only empty chair. Cousin Marlene leans forward. "We were just saying how lovely everything is. Did you see the programs? Such beautiful printing." I hadn't, actually. A cream-colored booklet sits at each place setting, embossed with silver foil. I open mine to find 3 pages dedicated to Brielle's life story, her cheerleading championships, her charity work with disadvantaged poodles, her interior design business that consists of redecorating friends' summer homes. My eyes scan for any mention of her sister, the CEO. Nothing. "It's comprehensive," I say, closing the booklet. My mother materializes beside our table, her lavender silk shimmering under the crystal chandeliers. She places one manicured hand on my shoulder, addressing the table but pointedly not me. "Everyone enjoying themselves? Wonderful. Have you all met my other daughter? This is Anselma. She works with computers." Works with computers. As if I repair printers at the local library. As if I haven't built a publicly traded company valued at nearly $1 billion. As if I haven't revolutionized how AI systems recover from catastrophic failures. "Actually, Mother..." "Oh, there's Margaret Wilson, must say hello." She floats away before I can finish, her perfume lingering like an accusation. The servers arrive with the first course, a delicate arrangement of beets and goat cheese. I take a bite, grateful for the momentary distraction. 2 tables over, Brielle's new husband Carter stands chatting with his groomsmen, his gaze sweeping past me as if I'm part of the wallpaper. We've met 6 times. Not once has he asked a single question about my life. "Family photos on the terrace in 5 minutes, calls the photographer, a bearded man with too many cameras around his neck. I rise dutifully and make my way outside, where Mother is already arranging people with military precision. "Taller ones in back, family in front, cousins on the left, please." When my turn comes, she positions me at the far edge, half obscured by Uncle Robert's substantial frame. "Perfect," she says, stepping back to survey her work. When the photographer suggests I move forward, Mother laughs. "Oh no, we need symmetry. Anselma is fine right where she is." After the photos, I find myself alone again, watching Brielle hold court by the champagne fountain. She catches my eye briefly, then turns to the woman beside her. "Not everyone can find love like I have," she says, voice pitched just loud enough to reach me. "Some have to settle for other things." The woman glances my way, then back at Brielle with a knowing smile. Mother appears at my elbow, glass in hand. "Darling, that gentleman from Carter's firm was asking about you. Single, divorced last year. You should introduce yourself." I take a slow breath. "I'm not interested, Mother." Her face tightens almost imperceptibly. "I just want to see you settled before I'm gone, dear." "Is that so wrong?" Before I can answer, a tall man with silver temples catches my attention from across the room. He stands apart from the others, one hand in the pocket of his impeccably tailored suit. Unlike the others, he's not watching Brielle. He's watching me, with eyes that miss nothing. "Who is that?" I ask, nodding subtly in his direction. Mother follows my gaze. "Aldrich Welling, Carter's uncle. Terribly wealthy, terribly powerful. Transportation magnate or some such. Bit of an oddity in the family. Never married." For a moment his eyes meet mine, and something passes between USA flicker of recognition, perhaps. Understanding. Then Father takes the microphone, tapping it twice. "I'd like to propose a toast," he announces, raising his glass. "To family values, to tradition, to my beautiful daughter who exemplifies everything we've tried to instill in our children." The room erupts in applause. I clap mechanically, feeling the sting of exclusion in every word he doesn't say. 3 weddings for Brielle, whispers someone behind me. Not even one date for her sister. I grip my champagne flute tighter, the stem threatening to snap between my fingers. Was independence worth this isolation? This constant reminder that I've failed at the only metrics my family values? Father's speech continues, a litany of Brielle's accomplishments that somehow never includes graduating high school or holding a job for more than 6 months. When he finishes, I force myself to approach the head table, to congratulate Carter despite the cold assessment in his eyes. Welcome to the family, I say, meaning it despite everything. As I turn to leave, a woman touches my arm. Excuse me, didn't I see your name in Forbes? Something about neural networks? For the first time since arriving, my smile feels genuine. Yes, last month's issue. We're revolutionizing how AI systems recover from critical failures. Fascinating, she says, and remarkably, she seems to mean it. For one brief moment, in this crucible of judgment and exclusion, someone sees me. 15 minutes later, to family, even those who prefer boardrooms over ballrooms, Uncle Teddy raises his glass with a wink that makes the crowd titter. His toast carries just enough edge to sting without seeming deliberately cruel. I take a measured sip of champagne, my face a careful mask of polite attention. Around me, Brielle's bridesmaids exchange glances, their pastel dresses rustling as they lean together, whispering behind manicured hands. The reception flows around me like water around a stone. I've claimed a corner at table 16, as far from the head table as the seating chart allowed. My table mates, distant cousins, and forgotten high school acquaintances have long since abandoned their seats for the dance floor or the open bar. Aunt Selma, darling. Aunt Eleanor appears beside me, her voice honeyed with false concern. She places a hand heavy with cocktail rings on my bare shoulder. 35 now, isn't it? Have you given any thought to freezing your eggs? The biological clock waits for no woman, regardless of how many promotions she gets. I meet her gaze directly. My eggs and I have an understanding, Aunt Eleanor. They don't pressure me about my career choices, and I don't pressure them about their timeline. Her mouth puckers like she's bitten into something sour. Well, I just worry you won't find time for what matters before it's too late. What matters is relative, I reply, taking another sip of champagne. She retreats, mission accomplished, another barb delivered. I watch her rejoin a circle of blue-haired matriarchs who glance my way with synchronized concern. The weight of solitude presses down, yet something feels different tonight. I straighten my spine and let my gaze drift across the reception hall with its crystal chandeliers and floral arrangements that cost more than my first car. The string quartet plays something classical that Mother selected, insisting Brielle's preference for contemporary music would cheapen the atmosphere. A memory surfaces. 3 years ago, signing the contract that secured my company's first $1 million client. My hand hadn't trembled then, though my parents had warned the business would fail within 6 months. You're diving into a male-dominated field with no connections, Father had said over Sunday dinner. Be realistic about your chances, Aunt Selma. I'd proven him wrong, proven all of them wrong. Yet here I sit, still seeking validation from people who measure success in diamond rings and monogrammed towels. The thought hits me with unexpected force. Their metrics don't matter. I've built something valuable. Something that exists and functions, and helps people regardless of whether anyone in this room understands it. Brielle appears beside my table, champagne flute dangling from her fingers. The tulle of her gown brushes against my arm as she leans down. Couldn't you have brought someone? She asks, voice pitched low. Anyone? You're making us look bad. I gaze up at my sister radiant in white satin for the 3rd time in 8 years. Making who look bad exactly? The family. She glances around to ensure we're not overheard. People are talking. 300 guests and not one person here for you. I didn't realize I needed a +1 to feel complete. My voice remains steady, neither apologetic nor challenging. Brielle's perfect features tighten. That's not what Isn't it? I cut her off gently. 3 weddings for you, and at each one the same concernate for my happiness, but for appearances. She opens her mouth to respond when movement at the head table catches our attention. Aldrich Welling, Carter's uncle and chairman of Welling International, rises from his seat. His tall frame, impeccable in a charcoal suit, commands attention without effort. Silver hair catches the light as he navigates between tables with deliberate steps. The room quiets, conversations dropping to whispers, then silence. Brielle watches with narrowed eyes as Aldrich approaches not her, but me. He stops directly before my chair. His weathered face, lined with 60-some years of experience, regards me with unmistakable recognition. Then, to the astonishment of everyone watching, Aldrich Welling bows. Not a casual nod, but a deep, respectful inclination that speaks volumes in a language the entire room understands. Miss Rourke, he says, voice carrying in the stunned silence. Your keynote at the Brussels summit changed how we approach cross-border tech mergers. The ethical framework you presented saved our Asian expansion from potentially catastrophic regulatory pitfalls. I owe you thanks. Time seems suspended. Not a glass clinks, not a chair scrapes. 300 pairs of eyes fix on this tableau, respected titan of industry paying homage to the woman they've dismissed for years. From my peripheral vision, I see mother's champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. Father's jaw has gone slack. The bridesmaids have stopped whispering. And Brielle stares as though seeing me for the first time. I feel oddly calm. Thank you, Mr. Welling. I'm glad the framework proved useful. No gloating. No triumphant glances at my family. In this moment of vindication, I realize I never needed their validation. The worth of my work exists independent of their recognition. I rise to my full height, feeling lighter than I have all day. The burden of seeking approval slips away, leaving my shoulders straighter, my chin at a more natural angle. The integration of ethical considerations with practical compliance was particularly impressive. Aldrich continues, reaching into his jacket. I'd like to discuss potential applications at Welling International, if you're amenable. He extends a business card, heavy stock with embossed lettering. I accept it with a nod. I'd be interested in that conversation. Around us, the room remains suspended in collective shock. I can see Mother and Brielle exchanging panicked glances, a silent communication passing between them. Their world has tilted, social hierarchies suddenly scrambled by this public acknowledgement. I'm preparing my next move, a gracious exit, perhaps when Mother appears at my side, her lavender silk rustling with urgency. Her smile strains at the corners as she places herself between me and Aldrich. Darling, you never told us how important your work is. She loops her arm through mine, claiming connection. Her fingers dig into my forearm with surprising strength. Brielle materializes on my other side, her wedding dress engulfing us in a cloud of white. My brilliant sister, she announces, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Her arm links possessively through mine, completing the family tableau. Their changed demeanor hangs between us, transparent as glass and just as fragile. I meet Aldrich's eyes over Mother's coiffed head. A slight smile plays at the corner of his mouth. He sees the performance for exactly what it is. The question now isn't whether I'll accept their sudden interest, but what I'll do with this unexpected power shift. The answer waits inside me, clear and certain as the Brussels keynote they never bothered to attend. Mother's arm snakes around my waist, pulling me against lavender silk and lily of the valley perfume. Her voice rises an octave, addressing the circle of guests now watching us with undisguised curiosity. We've always been so proud of Anselma's accomplishments. I feel my spine stiffen. For 20 years, my achievements collected dust, while Brielle's engagements warranted champagne and newspaper announcements. Now Mother beams as though she's attended every product launch, read every article, celebrated every milestone. My work has been important for years, I say, keeping my tone neutral despite the hurricane brewing in my chest. Nothing's changed today. She squeezes my waist harder. I step sideways, creating space between us. The move doesn't go unnoticed by Aldrich Welling, who watches with the shrewd assessment of a man who's witnessed 1,000 corporate takeover attempts. Brielle appears at my other side, her white gown rustling like expensive tissue paper. She loops her arm through mine, a gesture so foreign I nearly flinch. We've always been each other's biggest supporters, she announces to the gathering crowd, ever since we were little girls. The memory surfaces unbidden 16 years old, my first coding competition. The gymnasium rows empty except for my computer science teacher. My family seat's vacant because Brielle had a cheer competition the same day. I swallow hard. Father materializes with 3 champagne flutes, handing one to me with flourish. To my brilliant daughter. He raises his glass, eyes darting to Aldrich as if seeking approval. A woman in teal silk Carter's Aunt Meredith, I recall from the rehearsal dinner, tilts her head. Funny, I haven't heard about her accomplishments until now. What exactly does your company do, Anselma? Before I can answer, Mother jumps in. Something with computers and that artificial what's-it. Neural Revive specializes in adaptive recovery systems for artificial intelligence models. I say, cutting across her vague hand waving. We're currently expanding into European markets. Aldrich nods. Anselma's Brussels keynote changed our entire approach to cross-border tech mergers. A young woman in her 20s breaks away from Brielle's bridesmaids, approaching me with genuine interest. I'm finishing my computer science degree this year. Would you have any advice for someone entering the field? For the first time tonight, I feel my shoulders relax. Focus on solving problems no one else recognizes yet. That's where innovation happens. She nods eagerly, asking follow-up questions about internships and industry connections, completely ignoring Brielle, who shifts her weight from one satin heel to the other. Aldrich introduces me to a silver-haired man. Harrison here sits on 3 tech boards that might benefit from your expertise. The conversation flows into technical Waters neural networks, ethical implementation protocols, market applications. I find myself at the center of a growing circle, answering questions with the confidence that comes from building something substantial. Brielle's smile calcifies. Enough shop talk at my wedding. Her voice carries a sharp edge that slices through conversation. We should be dancing, not discussing boring business things. Mother hovers at the periphery, her smile strained as terminology flies past her comprehension. She attempts to interject with mentions of my childhood. Anselma was always taking things apart. That missed the substance of our discussion. When Harrison asks about my company's founding, Father puffs up. We always knew she had potential. Actually, I say quietly, meeting his gaze, Neural Revive was built without family investment. I secured initial funding from Westlake Ventures after being turned down by 17 other firms. The silence that follows speaks volumes. Aldrich's eyebrow lifts appreciatively. No family involvement at all? Harrison asks. No, I answer, the simple truth more powerful than any accusation. But that's common in tech startups. I see the recognition in Aldrich's eyes. She understands what I'm not saying. Brielle's third husband, Carter, joins our circle, his curiosity seemingly genuine. I read something about your company's ethical AI framework. That's the future, isn't it? I nod, directing the conversation back to safer waters. The wedding has been beautiful. You both must be thrilled. My sister's face softens fractionally at the lifeline I've thrown her, though her eyes remain wary. I've neither gloated nor hidden my success, and somehow that balance feels like the greatest victory of all. The whispers have changed tone completely. Where once they carried judgment about my solitary state, they now question the family suddenly claiming kinship with my achievements. Did you know her sister never even mentions her work? I overhear from a cluster of Carter's relatives. Mother's smile remains fixed in place, but her fingers worry the pearl strand at her neck. Father shifts uncomfortably when technical questions come his way, revealing the depth of his disinterest in my career. Through it all, I maintain a quiet dignity that requires no audience, no validation. The weight that's pressed on my chest since childhood has lifted not because Aldrich Welling bowed to me, but because I finally understand that I never needed their approval at all. The terrace air cools my flushed skin as I escape the reception's stifling atmosphere. Sunset paints the sky in amber and gold, a beautiful backdrop for Brielle's photographer capturing spontaneous family moments. I stand apart, watching the performance unfold. My fingers trace the cold stone balustrade, anchoring me to something solid while my thoughts whirl like autumn leaves. A shadow falls across the stone, then another, then a third. There you are, darling. Mother's voice drips with newfound sweetness as she glides toward me, Father and Brielle flanking her like twin sentinels. Their approach triggers an instinctive tightening in my chest, a familiar constriction I've felt since childhood whenever they moved as a unit. Mother takes my hands in hers, eyes shimmering with manufactured tears. We've always believed in you, darling, always. The lie hangs between us, so transparent I could trace its outline with my finger. Father clears his throat, straightening his bow tie. You should bring Aldrich to Sunday dinner. I'd love to discuss investment opportunities with him. His eyes gleam with the same predatory look he gets when spotting vulnerable witnesses on the stand. Brielle steps closer, her wedding gown rustling like whispers in the dark. You could at least try to look happy for me today instead of stealing attention. Her smile remains fixed, voice dropped to avoid the photographer's ears. This is my wedding. I breathe in the scent of blooming roses from the garden below, counting silently to 3 before responding. My heartbeat accelerates. This exact moment's played in my mind for years. The confrontation I've both dreaded and craved. After all we've sacrificed for you. Mother's voice rises an octave, her hand pressing against her lavender silk bodice. This family has always supported each other. Your mother's right, Father adds, squeezing her shoulder. Remember who put you through college. The scholarship letters flash in my memory, documents they never bothered to read, checks they never had to write. The family image matters, Anselma. Brielle adjusts her veil, eyes darting toward her new in-laws across the terrace. We need to present a united front. The weight of their expectations presses down on me, a familiar burden I've carried since childhood. My hands tremble slightly, but not with shame or submission. Something else flutters beneath my ribs, something with wings and teeth. I take a deep breath. The air fills my lungs completely for what feels like the first time today. Are you proud because someone powerful said I matter, or because you finally believe it? Their faces freeze in identical masks of surprise. The question hangs in the air between us, undeniable now that it's been spoken aloud. When I launched Neural Revive, you said it was just another computer thing, Mother. You were getting your hair done during the ribbon cutting. My voice remains level, quiet enough that nearby guests can't hear, but clear enough that my family can't pretend to misunderstand. I turn to Father. You told Aunt Sarah my business was just a hobby until the IPO. Then suddenly it was our family business in your Christmas letter. His face flushes crimson beneath his silver hair. And you, Brielle? I meet her wide eyes directly. When Forbes interviewed me, you told your friends I got lucky with some app thing. You've dismissed my career at every family dinner for the past decade. The photographer approaches, sensing a moment. Mother waves him away with frantic fingers. You don't get to claim credit for success you ridiculed. Each word emerges crystalline and precise. Real family supports each other before recognition comes. The fear in my stomach transforms into something steadier, more substantial. The ground beneath my feet feels suddenly solid. I needed your belief when no one else believed. My voice drops lower. Now I don't need it at all. A silhouette appears at the edge of my vision. Aldrich Welling stands nearby, his tall frame backlit by the setting sun. His presence freezes the tableau, Mother with lips parted mid-protest, Father with hand half raised, Brielle with tears welling in calculated precision. It takes no talent to inherit wealth. Aldrich's voice carries across the terrace, stopping nearby conversations. But Anselma built value where none existed. She's earned respect in rooms none of you will ever enter. The photographer stops, camera lowered. Wedding guests turn toward us, their expressions ranging from fascination to discomfort. The silence spreads like spilled wine across white linen. Mother stammers, "We always knew Anselma was." Her words find no purchase in the sudden vacuum. Father shifts his weight, authority draining from his posture like air from a punctured tire. Brielle's tears spill over, but they seem performative now, a learned response without emotional weight behind them. I straighten my shoulders, feeling lighter than I have in years. Congratulations on your wedding, Brielle. I wish you happiness. The words hold no anger, no bitterness, only finality. The bridge between us hasn't collapsed. I've simply stopped trying to cross it. I turn and walk away, leaving them standing in the golden light of sunset, their shadows stretching long behind them. My heels tap a steady rhythm on the stone terrace as I move forward, each step carrying me further from their expectations and closer to my own truth. For the first time in my life, I don't look back to see if they're watching me go. I stand alone on the terrace, the wedding cacophony reduced to a distant hum behind the heavy glass doors. For the first time today, my lips curve into a genuine smile. The night air caresses my face, cool and forgiving against my flushed skin. Something has shifted, a weight I've carried for decades suddenly lifted, leaving me lighter than I've felt since childhood. A genuine smile spreads across my face. Not the polite mask I've worn all day, but something real and unguarded. My shoulders drop an inch, relaxation flowing through muscles that have been battle-ready since I arrived. Footsteps approach from behind, measured, deliberate. I turn to find Aldrich Welling maintaining a respectful distance, his expression thoughtful rather than demanding. "I hope I'm not intruding," he says, his voice carrying none of the false warmth my family suddenly discovered. "Not at all." He moves to stand beside me, both of us gazing out at the manicured gardens below. "What you've built with Neural Revive is remarkable," he says after a comfortable silence. "But what impressed me more was watching you tonight." I glance at him, questioning. "You don't just build, you rebuild. That's rare." His eyes, sharp with intelligence, meet mine. Most people can construct something from scratch. Far fewer can take broken pieces and transform them into something stronger than the original. The observation strikes a chord so true I nearly flinch. I have a proposition, he continues. No family connections, no social obligations, purely business. My European division needs exactly what your team has developed. He hands me a business card, heavier than standard stock. Let's talk Monday. I'd like that, I answer, surprised by how much I mean it. 20 minutes later, I slide behind the wheel of my car, alone by choice rather than exclusion. The windows roll down at the touch of a button, and I breathe deeply as cool night air rushes in. The contrast with my tense arrival hours earlier couldn't be starker. Then, isolation felt like punishment. Now, solitude feels like freedom. I drive through the darkened streets, my mind tracing the years spent seeking approval from people who fundamentally misunderstood my worth. The folly of it strikes me now how I measured success through their dismissive eyes, when they never possessed the capacity to see what I was building. Self-validation was always the answer. I just needed to stop asking the wrong questions. My phone buzzes with a text message. Maya, my lead developer. How was the wedding? I consider the polite response, the social script. Instead, I pull over and type, unexpectedly revealing, I'm finally free. Her response comes immediately. About time. Team's ready for tomorrow's strategy session whenever you are. Plans crystallize in my mind for Monday's meeting, not just for Welling's proposal, but something more. A mentorship program for women in tech. Scholarships for girls with soldering irons instead of tiaras. No one should need a bow to feel validated. I arrive at my apartment 30 minutes later, trading pinching heels for soft slippers. In the bathroom mirror, I pause, really looking at my reflection. The woman staring back appears somehow different, not physically changed, but fundamentally altered. Hello, Anselma, I whisper to her. You were enough all along. My phone calendar blinks with a reminder for Monday's meeting with Welling. Beyond it stretches a future unburdened by the need for family approval, expanding with possibilities I've earned through my own merit. On my balcony, I look up at the scattered stars piercing through the city's glow. The truth settles inside me, no longer painful but clarifying. The most powerful recognition isn't public. It's internal. I've already earned my own applause.